For our final talk before lunch this morning, I'd like to call Helen Spencer from the Society of Antiquaries of Scotland and John Lawson from City of Edinburgh Council to talk about the South East Scotland Archaeological Research Framework.
Thanks very much, everybody. So we're doing a double-hander to introduce to you today the new South East Archaeological Research Framework that we're launching today, or certainly launching part of it today as part of this event. So I'm going to be giving you a bit of a background about the project, about the SCARF project and the SESARF project, and then John is going to be giving you a bit of a curator's sort of view on the project and highlighting some of the key research questions and recommendations that have come out of the framework and sort of thoughts to consider for future research within South East of Scotland. So let's see which way. Yeah, right way. So hopefully everybody here at some point has come across SCARF before. So it's now 11 years since the original national SCARF, Scottish Archaeological Research Framework, was launched, so back in 2012. And the project has been managed from its outset by the Society of Antiquaries of Scotland. At the time, it was quite unique in being both a national research framework, but also one that was exclusively online. It told us what we knew and what we wanted to know about the archaeology of Scotland across all time periods. So since 2012, SCARF has grown, and we've now added a number of research frameworks, thematic frameworks, and regional frameworks to our resource. So, for example, the Future Thinking on Carved Stones framework. And this year, we launched our latest thematic framework, which is the Frontiers of the Roman Empire and the Antonine Wall World Heritage Framework. And we also do lots of work to promote archaeological research across Scotland. So we have some students, ECR bursaries, some people are here today who've received to attend the conference. And we also organise a range of skills workshops as well to encourage research and increase skills in research of archaeological, particularly museum or post-excavation collections. And we launched our New Look website back in 2020. Maintaining the original content from 2012 with new content and now with much more scope to do more things with it. In the past few years, we keep getting record views every year, so we're up to about 120,000 views, page views a year at the moment. But it was recognised back in 2016 that there was always going to be the need to look at updating the original national framework. It was never going to be static, and it needed to be kept relevant. So therefore, our main focus for the past 5 years has been updating the original framework from 2012 through a series of regional research frameworks, of which SESARF is the latest to be launched. So we currently, this map shows where we have framework projects that are either already launched, available on our website, or projects that we have going at the moment. So you can currently go to our website and get a research framework for Argyll, for the Highlands, and for Perth and Kinross. And from today, the start of the South East Scotland framework has been added as well. And we've also got 2 other projects started underway, one for Scotland's Islands, which is the Western Isles, Shetland and Orkney, and another one started this year for the Clyde Valley region as well. So these regional frameworks will update and add much more detail to the national picture and will be much better tailored to the local region, so bring out more nuances, a more regional perspective. And they will hopefully be much more useful to all people who work and research and are interested in archaeology across Scotland. We also have some exciting new developments to highlight that will help link the research framework, the research questions that we have on our website, with the systems within the UK that help record and keep track of the archaeological work that goes throughout. And I'm going to mention them briefly in a minute. So today we're here to talk about SESARF, of which we're launching the first few chapters today. The original SESARF project began back in 2017. So this is one of our regional ones. It's a bit of a while coming, a bit of a while to get launched. And some of you will probably have attended a number of our workshops and events that were held back in 2018 and 2019. So SESARF was originally the second of our projects to get underway, and it covers East Lothian, Mid Lothian, Edinburgh City and the Scottish borders. And with just a few photographs here and also what we've been hearing about this morning, we can see how nationally significant this area is right on our doorsteps. The original project was a 2-year project that was to be managed by East Lothian Council on behalf of Scotland, South East Scotland Archaeology Partnership, which is a local archaeologists who have organised this conference for us here today. And the initial stage of the project was undertaken by Wessex Archaeology, working very closely, like I say, with the local archaeologists and a steering group we had on board at the time. And they did a great deal of work at the time to build up a baseline assessment of the archaeology of the region. Some of you will have seen draft chapters that they produced for us. They did a lot of data gathering, reassessment of radiocarbon dates, for instance, and working through the HERs to build up a mapping of sites across the region. So the framework chapters that we're launching today very much build upon the work that Wessex did in the first 2 years of the project. However, the budget and timescale at the time didn't quite allow for the whole project to be completed. So we've been working over the past few years to start getting it ready for you. And as with many projects, we've been delayed quite a bit with the start of COVID. I remember meeting the archaeologists back in Haddington at the council offices in early 2020 doing all the elbow bumping. And little did we know, we were making plans for the next stage of SESARF, and little did we know we'd all be in lockdown a few weeks later. So we picked up the project again in 2022 and developed a plan with our current budget and people's availability to complete the first section. So the first section is the prehistoric section and the early medieval section. So we're looking from Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic through to Iron Age, Roman and the early medieval section. The second part of the project, which will go from medieval, post-medieval to modern, we've got a funding application in at the moment to get some more funding to complete the second half, so we can do it really do it justice. We had a symposium in Edinburgh in May this year where we discussed many of the research questions, and our main chapter authors gave their views and thoughts on the priorities for the region. And all this information from the data gathering from Wessex, from the symposiums, was all passed back to our main authors and reviewers who've been working really hard, beavering away on finalising the draft chapters. So today we're pleased to launch 3 chapters of SESARF. We're launching the Landscape and Environment chapter, the Paleolithic and Mesolithic section, and the Early Medieval chapter. And we're nearly there with the remaining prehistoric chapters. So we have a Roman chapter that's out for final peer review at the moment, and also other chapters are due in, hopefully in the next month or so as well. So I'd recommend you sign up to our newsletter or follow us on social media so that you'll hear first when the new chapters go online. So SESARF is structured like all our other research frameworks. We will have chronological chapters, which you can see here and are accessible from the main landing page for SESARF. And then there's a menu down the side, so you can navigate through the menu to go to the area you want, or just browse if you want. Or you can easily jump to sort of the area that you want to go to. And what is also different is that our research questions and recommendations are pulled out more specifically and given their own pages. So for instance, here these are some questions from the early medieval chapter. So you can see the questions are all numbered and clear, unlike maybe the original national framework when a lot of the questions might have been buried somewhat within the text. They're now much easier to find. And we're currently working our way through the old part of SCARF as well to bring out the questions in the same way. So the whole of SCARF will have pages like this so you can easily access research questions and recommendations. I very briefly wanted to mention how our research frameworks are starting to be incorporated into OASIS 5, which is the main way for archaeological research within the UK to be reported. So since the start of this year, anyone filling in a record will be or should be asked if their work has helped answer any research question. OASIS has mainly been used by the commercial sector, but it can also be used to report, and ideally should be used to report any archaeological work in the UK, including academic projects and community group work as well. And in Scotland, it's also now being used to report to the annual Discovery and Excavation in Scotland publication. So when work is reported, people will be prompted to choose if their work answers a question. They'll be able to pick which framework. So here we go, have your results contributed to a framework? Yes. They should be able to pick which framework. There should be a drop-down list to pick which framework it's contributed to. You can choose more than one. Then you'll be asked to look and choose your question. So here, for instance, where was the northern boundary of the Roman province in Antonine times? And then you'll be asked to fill in the summary of an outcome, so how the research, the work, has contributed to answering a research question. And this will eventually come back to SCARF, to our team, where we'll be able to update and add the detail to the research questions. There is going to be a technological way to do this, where things come back automatically. So we're working at the moment with OASIS and the Archaeological Data Service, ADS, to work out exactly how this is going to work. As ever with these things, I'm aware there's been a few gremlins in the system at the moment, which seems to be working better in England for some reason than it does up here. But we hope to get this sorted in the next few weeks. And as soon as we do, we will be adding the latest SESARF questions to this. So, like I say, look out for the new updates to SCARF and SESARF in the coming months. Please go and take a look at the first 3 chapters that are live now, as from today. A final thought and thank yous briefly before I hand over to John. Oops. Maybe that's on a timer for some reason. Doing a framework like this involves getting a large number of people from across the archaeology sector in a room together, and it really wouldn't be possible without the help of so many people and the time of so many people involved in this. I don't have time to thank everybody individually here today, but there's many of you in the room who have really helped and contributed to making SESARF, so thank you very, very much. And I also want to thank our main funders for both SCARF and the SESARF project, which are the Historic Environment Scotland as well. So I hope you all can take time over the next few weeks to go and enjoy the first few chapters. Please get in touch with us. We've got a stand out in the lobby, so come and see us and pick up a bag and a pen. And for that, and now I'll hand over to John, who's going to give you his perception and a curator's view of SESARF.
Thanks very much, Helen. Thanks very much, Helen. I'd just like to, I'm standing here. I've not got the short straw, but it's actually a real privilege to finally see the launch of SESARF. As I say, Helen, it's been a long time coming, and there's a lot of hard work that's been undertaken by probably quite a few in the audience. I won't point fingers, but you know who you are. But I'd just like to say on behalf of the partnership, which is basically Edinburgh Council, East Lothian and Scottish Borders, that we'd just like to first of all thank Wessex for their hard work to start with, but also Helen and our colleague Jennifer for the feverish amount of work over the last 12 months, 18 months, basically trying, figuratively speaking at times, hitting us over the head and getting us to do work. And it's been actually been quite a privilege to work with you. And I'll just say thank you for the last couple of weeks trying to put it together. And we very much appreciate it. And I was sort of, as part of this double act, I've been asked to sort of come up and actually give a viewpoint from the creator, but it's actually some personal choices. So it's not the ones, I say, I think there's over 100 questions at the moment, and there'll be many more research questions coming out in the papers. But also, it's not a dead subject in terms of research questions. The whole point of this is actually, this is what we think now, and we want these to change. So it's really incumbent about most people in this audience and others to actually make them change and answer some of the questions. So we have a nice picture here of some recent work. He says I'm going to get these wrong. Oh, there we go. So, sorry, I'm looking. So, in semi-chronological order, he says, because that's what a traditional old archaeologist am. And also following on from some of the work that I've been doing, or largely led by my friend Rob in the corner at Cramond. So we know over the last 20, 30 years, if we did this 30 years ago, we probably thought, do we actually have any Mesolithic, or certainly any Paleolithic, anywhere in Scotland, never mind, South East Scotland. But that has pushed on. We've done, through development control work, since the 1990s, we've now established that we do have several houses. We've got one at East Barnes near Dunbar, myself, and there's Helen found one at Echlin, South Queensferry. We're all certain there's going to be occupation. We just published a paper at Cramond. We haven't quite got a house, but it's probably there. So effectively, and there's been work in Muswell. So almost like at the mouth of every estuary or river, there's Mesolithic occupation if you go and find it. But one of the big questions, I suppose, is where else? You've said from some of the papers today, we've got the odd find. We're getting odd finds in the carbon date from across the region. But as far as I'm aware, we don't really have any settlement occupation. So where is it? We've got this fantastic field walking site at Biggar, which is annoyingly just out with our region, but we can't quite claim it. But there must be others. So a question for you all is, where and what form does this early occupation after the last ice sheet take? Go out and find it. You know, that's basically it's a plea to you all. And this is actually a great example. You'll see sort of a very early picture of my colleagues digging Cramond Mesolithic site, but that was found largely by the Edinburgh Field Society. So there's a real role here, not only for professional archaeologists, but amateur groups, local societies, to go out and do field walking. That's the only way we're going to find this sort of stuff, really. And for universities and students actually to take the matter by its horns. And of course, we've got that fantastic East Barnes house excavated by AOC. Sorry, can I just... Sorry, I don't trust that anymore. I've broken it already. So the other one is really, a lot of the speakers touched on it today. We're also environmental. So what does people look like? How did our region change through time? How do we exploit resources? And this was put forward by Stephanie here. I'll just name her and shame her. But actually, it's about how do we better understand long-term relationships, you can read it there, between humans and woodlands. How do we manage our woodlands? You've seen today in the talks about large palisaded enclosures. Just think about how much wood trees are taken down to actually form these sites. How will they replace? So how does that change the landscape? A lot of work is being done on that, but these are interesting. How did that change in our region as well as Scotland? And it could be looking at a larger landscape, but also just even down to local neighbourhood and the smaller sites. Sorry. We were talking about this earlier on about the Vikings. Well, they came, they saw, but did they really conquer, to quote an slightly earlier period? There's various raids. I mean, we heard last year about the Isle of May and the causes of looking at the forensic evidence for violence, but also we've got the odd raid, but there's only not many raids are recorded in our region. We have material from the period, but is there anything to say the Vikings are good? And if not, why not? How were we trading with them? What does that form take? So that's one of the questions that's been raised. Sorry, next. And something that's I wouldn't say unique, but certainly a common feature, certainly of Lothian plains, are these enigmatic, we don't know really what they're for, large rows of pits. We've got an example here from, it says Orchard Field in East Lothian, but you can see these going for hundreds of metres across the Lothian plain in crop marks. And this is something you hear about probably more next year. A GARS excavation currently undergoing, finishing off hopefully at Christmas, they keep on telling me, this year at Edmundston. We've got this fantastic row of large pits. I think looking at Bronze Age, Neolithic Bronze Age at the moment, but post-excavation will come out that. Generally, there could be anything in the prehistory date. There are landscape features, in this case possibly marking over an area associated with, to one side of it, we've got an early cairn and possibly ritual sites. But what are these for? Who knows? But where are they? How does that fit in with the field monument types of later prehistory and early prehistory? So that's something that probably will always never be answered. Next. This is one close to my heart, and I keep having to remind myself I need to do some more work in it. But we heard evidence today, the last speaker talking about some of the more bottom end, shall we say, the lower end of the social scale in early medieval archaeology. Honestly, if you got 20, 30 years ago, development control archaeology, did we actually have anybody living here in that period? The archaeological evidence would suggest not, but obviously they did. I think AOC did in Edinburgh, probably when they put the extended date M8 near Ratho, they found a fantastic site, Bronze Age with Dark Age material on it, with actually loom weights were actually made in East Anglia. So that's very early evidence for the Northumbrian, the Angles coming up in the 7th century. But we're only just now finding, through the odd pit, the odd postal here, corn drying kilns, of that, shall we say, lower status stuff. But actually, going back slightly 100 years is, I'll never say Goody Udu mentioned by Bede, but there's a big question about this royal status site just before the Northumbrian. Where were the British in this landscape? Where did they actually stay? And I think, well, to me, this is going to be one of my research digs, so hopefully in the next few years, I'd love to get back into Cramond, 50 years after we found the bathhouse with its Dark Age burials, 7th century royal burials. Is this a royal capital? Bede mentioned this missing mythical capital somewhere halfway up the Forth. I mean, there's suggestions from Stirling everywhere. So that is something I'm particularly interested in myself. And next. And lastly, go forth and discover. There's a message. I feel like a politician here. This is Amanda working out at Guard at Emerson's A Lovely Kiss, which is fantastic discovery. And you'll certainly hear more about this in the next year, if not the year ahead, because what it's found is actually groundbreaking. But there you are. There's the message. These researchers, it's much to do with us, but it's actually about everybody in this audience and field workers to take forth and research it. So thank you.